I am joined by Lika Croft, who is a makeup artist turned psychotherapist. She specialises in anxiety, depression, self-esteem, self-love. She'll explain a bit more about that. And Mark Blake, who is an internationally recognised trichologist or trichologist. I just asked which it was, it's either. He's based on Harley Street, works with high-profile doctors, celebrities, and haircare brands such as do you want to quickly explain what a trichologist is? And then also, Lee, you can explain what you do as well day to day.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a trichologist and I specialise in getting you the hair you deserve. So often people have hair and they're not very happy with it, or they're sort of thinning. And so I'm one of those weird people that, as I specialise in people with exercise, I talk to you, I'm scanning you, I'm looking at you, I'm natural thin in the eyebrows, anything that's going on in your body, because you have to grow hair from within. And so hair is one of those strange things that we take it for granted because it's just oozing out of our head. But we have to grow this hair out of what we eat and retain. And sometimes we don't retain things very well. So I specialise in making sure you get the right hair that you should have.
Fantastic. So my name is Lee Piper. So I started my career as a makeup artist working with A-list celebrities, royalty, right through to running a charity initiative where I use makeup effects in order to boost the well-being of the guests who attended. And it was through seeing the transformation and the emotional shifts that the people who attended the events would go through that I studied to become a psychotherapist. And now I work in private practice and creating corporate well-being events around self-esteem, anxiety, depression, all the challenges that we seem to have in life today. So, and I also want to try and bridge the two, because obviously the inside impacts the outside and vice versa. So yeah, thank you for joining. So to be here.
Thanks very much. So we're here to talk about the psychology of hair, and I'm going to quickly address the fact that the three of us are probably you all have quite good hair, all three of you, which is true, and we'll get to that and why it's obviously lovely that that's something that can also be an issue, in case someone wants weight in it. We're going to talk about good hair days, bad hair days, what that means, what the phrases mean really, and why they mean so much to us, especially as women. I'm just going to set the scene with a couple of facts. According to a 2018 survey by Terrible, 18% of women feel more confident after colouring their hair. That's not that they look better, they feel more confident. And 87% said colour makes them feel more confident than any other beauty treatment, so looking at hair colours. In another US survey, 30% of women feel more empowered on a good hair day. So those facts alone show how much emotional weight we place on hair. I just wanted to start by asking you both, what does the phrase good hair mean to you? And can you shed any light on kind of the weight of the phrase as you've seen it in your careers?
Well, to me, it's when you look in the mirror, it's one of those things that if you're not very happy with what you see, the first thing you do in the morning, you look in the mirror. If you like it, you don't like it. And if you're, say, losing your hair or having a bad hair day, the rest of your day is in a bad mood, really. So part of that is actually how can we look in the mirror? And we actually don't look at our hair, we look at something else. We're always looking because we want to appear better. But if our hair isn't one of the issues, something else can be, because we'll just keep chasing it around. But hair is my big focus, and so that's it. When we wake up in the morning, we look at it in the mirror and think, am I going to have a good day? Is this a bad day now? Is this a bad day?
Well, I think it depends partly on the association you have with it. I think that when we are, as Jen had said, when we're doing our hair, it's not so much about how our hair looks, but how we feel as a consequence of that. And anything we do aesthetically, as humans, we're run by instincts. And so, if we're having a good hair day, that may well give us that boost because we like what we're seeing, it's reflecting, or in alignment with our identity, how we see ourselves, and how we want to be seen by other people. And so a good hair day can mean that you set your intention and that today is going to be a good day. So you start noticing the things that are good about that day. Equally, you set off from the perspective that my hair doesn't look good, I don't like what I see in the mirror, this means fill in the blanks. Today's not a good day. So of course what happens is your brain just goes to seek out all the things that aren't working out for you that day, right? And that's the power of intention. right there. So that's would be mine. And also I think that we were saying earlier, Mark, about the sort of historical references to good hair and bad hair days. And sort of historically, through time, hair has meant something. It's been used to convey powerful messages about identity, about belonging to different tribes, right? Being cultural references.
What I would say is if you're having a bad hair day, just wash it. Don't try and repair it. Washing it is the best one. And there's still this myth about, I shouldn't wash my hair too much. And our mothers and our grandmothers told us we shouldn't wash our hair. Absolute rubbish. They were probably right in their day because products weren't very good. But nowadays, shampoos are so good, they've humectants, they take moisture out of the hair and manage your hair. So you're actually doing the world good. And scalp health is directly into hair health. So the idea is that you keep your scalp in tip-top condition because this is the soil that's growing out. And if you've got dodgy soil, you will be very dodgy hair.
And when it comes to things like hair growth, hair loss, what do you see in your day-to-day at the clinic that the most triggering issues for women are? Is it grain? Is it loss?
It's loss. Sort of telogen effluvium, or the Americans say telogen effluvium. That's the big thing. It's a temporary hair loss, but you need to take away the causative factors. So when we've had sort of the whole COVID thing going along, it didn't really go along. And a lot of people worried how they're going to get COVID. How they're going to keep their job. They can't afford to live on 80%. And so that stress was constant. And so we've experienced huge amounts of errors. And things are starting to level out a little bit more. But we're still very worried because the whole stress thing releases cortisol. And that sort of stress is a sort of testosterone kind of based thing. Testosterone is not good for women's hair. It's the one thing. If you're sensitive to something 504 delta, then your hair's not miniaturizing. And when it miniaturizes, you've still got the same amount of hair on your head, but each individual hair is getting smaller and smaller. So you look like you don't have much hair. And that's a big reason.
Mark, you're obviously treating the hair issue, and then Lee, when people come to see you in your practice, how often do you see that they're linking things like their hair or aesthetics to their emotional reaction?
Yeah, so it's interesting because if someone is going through excessive life challenges, they're at that point where they're at overwhelm, like you were saying just then, Mark, about the prolonged uncertainty that the pandemic brought, and that can be really difficult for people to work with because people want, as emotional need is to get certainty. And so when someone is going through a lot of challenges, I saw this in the charitable initiative I ran, they will often reflect in the not looking after themselves aesthetically, maybe not washing their hair, not bothering to get it cut, just tying up in a scruffy bun. So you'll see it from that perspective, which can kind of mirror what is happening internally. And it can go the other way when someone isn't paying excessive attention to everything about their aesthetic. And then that is always placing too much attention and not broad enough emotionally flexible as to how else to get their needs met. So it's through the attention they might be receiving on the status, which is often connected with hairstyles, image and so forth. So yeah.
And it's obviously how you feel about your own hair. There are conversations I think that need to be had on top of the confidence, body positivity, fat shaming, around hair shaming. And there has been some of it in the last few years. Obviously, ginger, red hair, how we should stop calling that out, and this texture hair, afro hair. Do you think there needs to be more light shed on that kind of area of body positivity as a whole?
Yeah, it's a difficult one really because there should be, but we beat ourselves up about it because we look at
your critical committee.
Exactly, and that's the hardest thing really. It's getting over your own mind playing games with you before you even see anyone else really. And I can see a lot of people with alopecia and who are losing their hair in awful fashion, and they don't want to go out. I saw a young girl who was about 21 the other day. I was near tears.
So many people that easy to say it's just hair.
Yeah.
But it's not at all, is it? No.
It's the brain, you don't take off. So
it's a much bigger part, isn't it, than just purely the aesthetics, the emotion we attach to it, the care we give ourselves with regard to it. It can be identity, it can be part of creativity and playfulness. That's the other side to it. and playing with it and colouring it. And you see that my daughter's 16 and she's done a whole split dyeing thing, where, and to her, it's given her a boost of confidence and a way for her to express herself. So I think it can really play into lots of different ways.
One of the figures I had here is that 30% of females would give up sex to have a better head of hair.
Not me.
But if you don't hair. So the other thing is 47%.
Right,
47% would give up their life savings, and 60% would give up their money and friends. Now, you guys all have fairly good heads of hair, but if you
You'll
did,
sniff it.
yeah.
I agree with this stat.
Jen, I'm a great hair sniffer. I'm a bit unsure of it. So if you come into the audience here now and I start shaking your hand and feeling if you've got a thyroid problem,
When it came in and told us that, we were all sitting there sort of
Basically, these are like dinner guests. He's already psychoanalyzing you and looking at your makeup mistakes.
And I sniff hair. I'm not a real hair sniffer. I'm sniffing for infection and various other things. So yeah, it's a bizarre thing, but your hair gives away so much about you, and we take it for granted.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about, you were saying about hair shaming, Jen, and the whole body confidence point of it. I do think nowadays, and the way the narrative is changing in the beauty industry is very positive in that we are seeing much more diversity, much more variety than we've ever seen before. And this is normalising stuff that was not, styles and looks that were not normalised before. There used to be when I started in the 90s, there was a very rigid, set idea of what a beauty ideal was. And it was a Victoria's Secret model with occasionally long straight hair, usually blonde.
Yeah.
Right? But that narrative is changing, and rightfully so. And so I think the only thing I'll say about the whole body confidence thing and hair shaming and this sort of thing is we have an issue with that because of the rise of social media. It's like the Wild West out there, unless it's managed. And it's like, I always think it's like going down the street and listening to the opinions of everybody around you, which you wouldn't do if you were having a chat down the street about hair and everyone started giving their opinion. We'd be saying, you talk about it, go away. But on social media we do this, so we're absorbing a lot on other people's opinions. But the only thing with body positivity thing is we're still talking about the way we look. And until we start broadening out the context of that and how else are we going to feel good about ourselves other than the way we look and find meaning in other ways, especially as we were talking about menopause and hair loss, as we go through menopause and different transition life phases, we have to, and the physicality is always going to change. It's a constantly moving thing like hair, right?
I love middle-aged menopause women.
There we are, hands up.
They are the greatest people because you can do more for them than anybody.
This is a menopausal woman trying to go grey. I'm like, going down the liberation part. I'm not going to dye my hair anymore except for the
It's
picture
a
make it go grey.
2022, right?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you must see in your clinic the effects, not just the emotional effects of people struggling with their hair, but also the effects of people trying to change their hair too much because they don't like it.
Yes, the trauma from hair, colours, from perms, things like this. It's unbelievable. But also, if you're growing weak hair, if you're using your GHDs and things like this, remember you might be growing quite weak hair, so it's not going to take the impact of it very well. So you can really rip it apart. So you need to grow this thick and strong hair because it's a fabric at the end of the day, and so it easily tears off. So we need to make sure that you've got the right quality hair. Some people might go have a hair colour and then say, oh, I've really messed up my hair colour. Yeah, not quite well actually, because you might have weak hair. Should you have told them you had a vitamin B12 deficiency, iron deficiency, and they use the same hair colour as normal, but it just had a different impact on their hair colour.
You might not know that.
No, exactly. So they don't know it. So yeah, there's lots of things thrown into the mix really.
Yeah, and there's obviously, as you both know, lots of products in the market now for hair masking, hair serums, there's hair tonics now, your hair gin. When it comes to self-care for your hair, from a psychological point of view, do you think that's important for people to take time, and how can they maybe involve that in their emotional self-care practice?
Yeah.
And then from a physical point of view, I'd love to hear your
So I think the way I have sort of transitioned from sort of seeing beauty as something and this is to do with the narrative of the 90s, of something we fix and the whole, everything was anti-aging, and you couldn't have grey hair, that would be like you'd let yourself go. And I think bridging across to being a bit more conscious and aware of what we are doing with our makeup ritual or our hair ritual, whatever it is, and using it as a time to sort of check in with yourself. Using it as a time to, do some breathing, to, do some creative visualization, which does, some guided imagery kind of thing. You're using the power of your imagination, which is one of our greatest resources, to imagine the way you're going on your day to day. And it can be used as a time to help regulate your nervous system, to help, we're often talking about chronic stress. We're in this sort of, if you think of your nervous system as being, when you're in a slightly alert state, where you're constantly in a slight state of responding physiologically to stressors in the environment, we need to bring that back into balance by engaging what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, relaxation response. And doing your hair, or doing your makeup, or your bath, whatever it is for you, can be a way of bringing that back into balance, just checking in with yourself.
And you can't touch your phone if you're massaging your scalp.
And there's the touch aspect of massaging your scalp, and pressure points, and the therapeutic benefits of that. You've probably got to say about pressure points in the head.
Yeah, my main thing is that there's so much, when you wash your hair, it has the biggest impact, but also how you condition it. The problem is, most people, I know it's sweeping statements, don't towel dry their hair before they put the conditioner on. And so they put that conditioner on, it feels great in the shower.
Does anyone, does anyone towel dry their hair with a conditioner on? Or even towel dry it
And
with
the thing
a
is,
mask
in the shower, it feels fantastic.
Okay, we've got one shower.
Yeah. But the moment you come outside that shower door, all of a sudden your hair's melting up, and you think, no, I feel great just now. And part of it is when you shampoo your hair, the shampoo is usually negatively charged, and your wet hair is negatively charged. So when you wash your hair, the shampoo just wants to get away from your hair. And then conditioner is positively charged, it just wants to stick to it. However, it feels great in the shower, and the inside of your hair is all this water that starts evaporating and leaving all these little holes in the shampoo. So if you towel dry, you can force this conditioner into your hair, so you don't have all these gaps, and so you build up a lot more moisture, and so the elasticity is less likely to break, and you're just feeding your hair with what it needs really. So yeah, it's the top tip when you're washing your hair. And it sounds a bit bizarre, and I don't mean it in any way, but think of me when you're in the shower. Towel dry your hair.
That's what you're going to creatively visualise.
What I would say is, do not put the conditioner on your scalp. Because if you put it on the scalp, you're then likely to get a sort of floppy hair. So it's almost good to lean forward and just do it to mid-length inch or about an inch away. And trust me, it's changing life.
And speaking of changing your life, we were saying there's in culture, there's so many sayings that have the word hair in it. Wash that man out of your hair, new me, hair flicking. Do you think that that's a positive thing as well as a negative thing? We put a lot of pressure on our poor strands of hair, but it can be celebrated too, right?
Yeah, hair is just, you look in the mirror and see this. Mine's a bit, I'm a bit like a mad professor, but it's one of those things you've got to like what you see in the mirror. And a lot of the time we don't like what we see in the mirror, and especially conditioners, we're always chasing better conditioner because it doesn't do what it says on the tin. Most of the time we don't actually use it correctly. We get mousses and this and that to give us volume. We slap a bit there, and then the wire doesn't do anything here. We can't distribute it well. So it's finding how we can get the maximum out. So I look around here, I thought there's a field data with sniffing and conditioning.
I mean, I would say, rather than saying you've got to like what you see in the mirror, I would say, for me, you've got to value what you see in the mirror. Because I think that we are so exposed to different images now in a way that we never have been before. And if you're not careful of what you're absorbing and what you're choosing to reject and spit out and whose opinions you're absorbing, then that critical committee can pipe up and a sudden you're having a war with yourself in the mirror. And affirmations, which we see on social media, and you love yourself more and all this kind of thing, is all great, but if you're a person that has gone through some real challenges, and the emotional context of that is showing in your face and showing in your hair through stress levels, and saying these kind of affirmations is really too much of a big leap for some people.
Yeah, to find balance. I think for you and your dog.
Yeah, and I think it's it's really being able to, if you don't like what you see in the mirror on a particular day, you're having a sort of bit of a war with yourself and you're being critical. Answer yourself a better question. Like, what do I value about myself? What is it about me that I appreciate? What good things have I done in my life? Broadening out the context of that, because yes, we can look this way, but it's also who are we being in our life? What are we doing day to day? And we were talking earlier about culturally we're sold big transformations. You were saying in your work that often people want a quick fix.
Yeah.
They want to get their hair sorted within a couple of weeks, and it takes you, what we say, 6 months.
But part of what I do is, with I What We Like and also, we can fake it until we can make it. And so that, because if I said to you, it's going to take you 6 months to turn your hair around, no interest. But if we can make it look great today, and then inside you'll start to pump out better hair over the next 6 months. And so then you might need to readjust what products you're using, because then that'll be too strong for you. So there's a whole thing of turning your hair around. But yeah, we're very
There's
patient.
real parallels to what you both do as well, because I was going to say you're going to say sort of can't fake it to make it, but there are quick things they can do, and then slow processes over time, right?
Yeah, and I think the key here is what we were saying earlier, Mark, also is patience. And I think that's sometimes that we can lose with our culture as it is now, and it's a quick transformation, a quick fix, let's do this, let's get it now. Whereas sometimes a bit of patience and taking things more slowly and step by step, day by day, can bring better reports when it comes to looking after your hair. It's those small habits that we perform each day that will build up over a period of time. That self-compassion we may show to ourselves. We're not like what we see in the mirror, we don't like our hair today. Our hair is going through a period of transition. It's being, creating a compassionate self, if you like, that can actually, you can use to withdraw resources from and imagery, if you like, to be kind with yourself and then be a little less harsh and critical of yourself. So I think, these are all sort of valuable points of the way everything's now fast, let's have it now. Where there's in certain contexts that can work, but I think it's just always being mindful of broadening out how we see that.
I think another thing with patience is when it comes back to hair, is that everything comes in trends and beauty. So, of course, certain thick hair is always going to be admired, and maybe long hair in a way always be admired, but grey hair, jokes aside, is going to be a huge trend.
Yeah.
For the next year. It really is. And curly hair, obviously via TikTok, everyone's now embracing their curly hair. A few years ago, obviously Beyonce with an album Confession with a Good Hair was implied, there was some Caucasians with long hair, but now, everyone's trying to embrace their natural Afro hair. So I think with hair care, patience is so important, and with good hair, it's important to remember that what you think is your bad hair today, in 10 years' time, 5 years' time, a month's time, might be good hair for someone else.
I think you've just got to totally think about your hair. You've all got hair and, like I said, you're growing it, but you don't realise you're growing it. You grow between 0.3 and 0.4 millimetres a year, which is the same between 100 and 150,000 hairs a year. So that 0.3 and 0.4 millimetres end of them, approximately 150,000. Means today you grow 36 meters of hair in 1 month's time. It is the second most prolific centimeters in the body of the builder. But you can only grow 36 meters of good stuff after you eat all the time. So if you don't create the hair, don't think I'm still going to skip nails and this and you can feed it. You can get building blocks and you can ooze out 36 meters of the good stuff. Sorry.
No! All these facts are like mind-blowing. I'd like to kind of finish with this question, and I don't mean to kind of Jeremy Paxton you, but when we're eating a diet, and there's a big that's real culture movement, obviously it's been talked about a lot recently, can you, in both your fields, see the emotional reasoning behind why she did it?
But I think, it's in everything from growing hair, or going grey or shaving your hair, it can be a sense of liberation, it's a sign of rebellion. You think of punk rock with, Mohawks, Native American tribes, it's a signal of something. Do you think and she was obviously going through extraordinary, challenging experience.
Because everyone has those days. I mean, I had a sister and I was pushing her out.
Let's take it off.
It just takes a long time to come back.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I've never actually done
But
that.
also, I think, Jen, the other important thing, as I was saying earlier about sort of, psychological needs that we all have, and when we're doing our hair, what's it going to give us, right? And when you think of the emotional need for control, then doing something to your hair and shaving your hair when you feel out of control can give you a sense of control. I'm taking control of this moment. I'm shaving my hair. I'm signaling something. So I think that in the way of using hair mask or a ritual, because rituals can be very powerful, whether it's a hair ritual, makeup ritual, whatever, it can help us feel a sense of control when things don't feel in control, in a small way.
And I wanted to ask lastly, because I think good hair is a real subjective trait, but what does happy hair mean to you both?
Happy hair is when you just love it, and I think that's when the hairdresser has done it well, and give you the right tips. I mean, I worry sometimes that hairdressers don't, I'm going to put some stuff in your hair, I'm going to put this, they're not telling you what they're doing, and they need to give you this, and they go to the till and say, do you need anything? What did you use on it? Give me the secrets of what you knowledge create this, So I think that part of it is we have to have the knowledge really to when to use these, when not to use them. My wife is classic, she has got all the products on her dressing table. It's, do you know what? None of it work anymore. Because you buy all these things you want, and you don't use them. They're just there, they're decorations.
That's where patience comes in.
Nothing works in the bottle. It only works when you use it and use it in the right way.
And what about to you, the happy hair?
I think a lot of that is the emotional context of that. It's how you're feeling about yourself in general. It's more than just your hair. It's an overall sense of your own value and well-being. It's when your self-esteem is high, when you can see value in many areas of your life beyond your hair. And your hair is part of that picture.
Great, well thank you both very much. And if you have any questions, they can be about the topic or they can be beauty related questions as well.
There's a few things I get to answer to that. One is you have something called an erect ear muscle, which sounds a bit weird, but this is the muscle when you're scared, your hair is just standing on the end of your arms and things like this, and your erect ear muscle gives you a little bit more lift. The other one is it's actually weather. Your hair can actually be longer in the sun than it is in winter because of humidity, and we have these sort of hydrogen balls in our hair, so sometimes you don't realise it looks the same way as it was yesterday, but the weather has made your hair longer. So that adds, there's two things in there that can add to the heat factor.
Can it be products as well, like if you overload it?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I put too much oil in my hair, all of a sudden it's doing the opposite to what I thought it was going to do, and it becomes all puffy.
And never try too hard. If you're going on a date and you think, I'm going to use this and use this, but you don't normally, it's all going to go pear-shaped. Just do it the same way as normal. And the moment you put too much on it, it's just going to sit.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's
doctors, he'll probably say, you're fine when you've had blood tests. Now, he means you're not going to die. So that's all he gets paid for. So if your blood level is around about the 200 bit, he's happy. But you're always going to have rubbish hair. So if you can get your B12 level to between 4 and 500, which he would be, why would you want it like that? Then you're going to get optimum hair. Your iron storage level as well, your doctor will only worry if it's under about 20. In fact, if you live in Liverpool, it'll be in the 10, because they take a mean average depending on where you live. So you can be anemic in Liverpool, but maybe not in London, which is bizarre. But your iron storage level, that is really key as well. So your doctor will only worry if it's in the 20. I will worry if it's in the 70. I want it to be about 100. But you'll go to the doctor, and I see all the different people go, they have these blood tests, and my doctor said, I'm fine. I look at the blood test, you're always going to have rubbish hair. So yeah, B12 and iron are the two things that women, if you want great hair, make sure that you've boosted your levels up for your hair. And, red meat is great for hair. But when you're saying about taking nutritional supplements, that's when if you're not eating red meat, you're taking nutritional supplements.
Another thing is to check, get your hormone checks. If you really have possible hair, something like hair loss, graying, thinning, lackluster. If you're sort of 30 or above, getting your hormones checked is inexpensive but really brilliant thing to do when it's a quick continuous hormone test and check with your doctor, because that can really affect your hair and it's fixable. I think people think, oh, I'm getting older or I'm going through menopause and so I just have to deal with it. You do not. Your hormones rebalance really quite easily as well.
And it has so much impact on the hairs.
And emotionally as well, your hormones. Your shitty because your hormones are really nice. You know, bad about your hair. I mean, it just depends. As we get older, we don't tend to absorb things as well as we used to. And so we need to make sometimes we need to inflate what we're eating to have the same effect. When we're younger, it's I mean, the one thing is, I would say, it's good to breakfast. I mean, if you're into kids, those two little eggs and a bit of spinach you see in those pots. Yeah, I mean, eggs are fantastic. Eggs are good for you this year. Next year they'll be bad for you. So you're not eating what they're good for you. Because next year you're not eating them. So, yeah, but yeah, I think.
I think at the end of the section, we were talking about and Indian.
Just
Yeah, a little bit.
So we were talking about good hair.
Yes.
And I wanted to know how do you see the markets of facial coaching being more accessible for young people? Knowing that good hair is healthy.
yeah.
And so far, everybody has been supported for facial coaching, but we are anticipating the need of that. When do you think we're going to shift for the people?
It's already started. The World Trichology Society based in New York has really elevated this, and now in this country it is really starting. The things and everything has been a huge explosion because you're right, it's been overlooked.
As well, there's a new across all hairdressers in the UK.
Yeah.
People that they have to be trained as well.
So how do the price will be?
Oh, you're going to see that it takes a couple of years to train this. So you will start seeing this. It's a bit like training doctors. We've got to get that training at the moment. And so I would say within the next year, actually, because it's already started.
I think there's just an instant shift. So products take time, obviously, in training, but in just in terms of the psychology behind it, people know now that good hair does not mean one hair type. It does not mean long auto hair. It does not mean short curly back hair. It does not mean no hair. It's good hair is, as we've been saying, how you feel about it, and I think that shift is going to impact how journalists talk about it, how magazines show it, how it's shown.
There's nothing better than everybody. I think the problem before it was a niche market. Now the everybody that the market Yeah, the everyday market is where they're going to be playing. So it's happening, and I've seen the shift already. So every Monday, the team do a world travelology event, and so this is huge what you're talking about. I've learned so much already. Fantastic. Jason Statham, you must be very happy. It's difficult. It's down to it's predetermined at that moment of conception of whether he has this sensitivity. But usually from the male, how old is he? 19 is about the key age for young men. I mean, all men should start the Hellish regime at about 19 because even if you don't use it, the worst that can happen is you still accept it will cover your bases. So yeah, when he gets 18, 19, he needs to start the Hellish regime because he just wants to keep it for as long as he can or till his eyesight goes and he can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Benefits of getting older.
It must have been a trend. Oh, Hellish, well, it just depends on why they're actually using it, but most of them in men is a sensitivity to something called 5-alpha reductase. And this is that this form of testosterone, your hair follicles don't like it, and so they shrink and miniaturize to get away from this form of testosterone. So usually by applying a topical solution, it's a bit like going to the dentist when you have a local anesthetic. So you apply it, and the hair follicles can't feel this 5-alpha reductase, so they happily carry on growing at their full size. So it's getting in early, because the moment they start miniaturizing, then really you're going into the water. And hair loss is one of those slippery slopes where hair loss is a slope like this. So it depends where you stop on that slope. So I see a lot of people come in and say, I've used this color and my hair looks exactly the same. I say, great, it's a success. Because it should have got worse. The moment it stops, so you've got to stop it, and then it's can you climb up the ladder a little bit more. But getting in early is the big thing.
Also, my non-scientific theory, just going by my husband, is that the hair is being stolen from his head.
And that's what happens. So as you get older, it stops growing in the places you do want it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So men you see which will gets their nasal hair. And so
Oh,
it's
Oh, yeah.
and women actually go through the menopause, they have slight traits of this. So they can get a little bit of hair here, lose a bit of hair here. So that's when it's usually when that menopause, you've got to sort of jump in early, really, and nip it in the bud. Is your head involved?
There's one man in the audience who's very, very good That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
The stats are slightly on that side, but they're only slightly. So yeah, I worry because I see guys in and they tell me exactly, my mother's dad, he's got great hair, this, and I'm looking and thinking, well, yours is going. So yeah, it is statistically more likely that they will, but you're only just over the half.
The problem with lots of statistics, and I can tell you this as a journalist, because I try and find them when I'm writing some pieces, is that some of them are based on studies from like hundreds of years ago as well. So there might not be many facts. If you Google it, this is obviously factually correct, but sometimes it's factually correct.
I mean, when you lose hair, and technically you will lose slightly more hair on the left side than you will on the right side. And we think it's even. But, you know, we're only talking a few little hairs, but you can.
What hair? Because my armpit hair on one side grows faster than the other. Is that true?
Revelation.
Sorry.
That's not it.
Is that possible that it can grow? So one side grows faster than the other?
Well, yeah, it tends to grow at the
I
receding.
see a doctor.
Should
I see?
Yeah, see Lee first.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a myth. It's a definite myth. What I would say is grey hair does scientifically grow slightly quicker than normal hair. It also, a lot of people think, oh, it's thinner. Usually, it appears slightly thicker because the sebaceous glands dry up, and so your hair is a little bit drier.
It's coarser, I find.
Yeah, and because these sebaceous glands are working as well, so it can be a little bit coarser there. No, don't keep pulling them out. Yeah. Was it cancer illness? Yeah. Well, what happens is that hair is the second fastest growing cell in the body, and chemotherapy and cancer drugs are designed to attack fast growing cells. So it goes in the body, eats the little daylights of the cancer, but it eats the hair as well. So the hair takes a bit of a beating. So when it starts trying to grow back, the colour pigment isn't quite working, that's not spraying in very well, so it's got to get back to normal. And it does take a little while to do that. Some people, it gets back totally normal. Other people,
Some people it can grow back curly.
yeah, you get chemo curl.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got two horses running here. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think the last 18 months, all the talk about salons, they're saying that there's responsibility for competition with things about style-related independent. Do you think brands and salon companies are going to have that shift over time?
Yeah, we've been talking about this before. They are. The problem is, and I don't mean to be like it's not us, it's you, but it is. Consumers are what I don't want competition. So it's a bit like skincare. We were saying, I'm saying before, I recommend visiting to a friend and they'll text me a week later and they'll skin the same. Because they're patient, so that's why they go to a foundation or even a glowing juicy serum. So it's going to take a longer time for consumers to get their head around that they need to take a course of supplements for 4 months, maybe 6 months to see a difference.
And taking the right ones as well. It's
Yeah.
as bad to overtake as it is to imitate.
Yeah, and you've got to get your blood, you should really get your blood test first before taking any supplements, I personally feel.
Yeah.
Even multivitamins, because you don't know if
Because some things work against each other. So there's ratios as well.
So I think the industry's already kind of doing it, but it will take a while for
I spent my whole life teaching hairdressers to talk about hair. Because I can come in and feel sick and some people's Irish ancestry or some Eastern ancestry or this or and there's nothing better than getting hairdressers to talk about hair, not holidays. Because why do they want to tell you about the holidays? Let's talk about hair, that's why you're there. And I still cut hair a couple of days a week because I'm not but the one thing I can do is always tell somebody something different about hair. And I said, I've been into hairdressers for 30 years. Nobody's ever told me this. So yeah, that's my mission, is to get hairdressers. I'm working tomorrow for Manchester. So I spend my life teaching hairdressers about hair.
yeah, I think hair health is getting up there. We've all done skin health, mental health, water with anything, but that's what talked about a lot. I think hair health.
I would say women have been working their way up the bodies for years. And then this is where they're at now. So it's finding cancer.
Mark, about hair, how important is scalp health?
We don't have time to talk about scalp health, and now we've got 10 minutes.
Scalp
For months.
directly linked to hair health. Women have this invisible line here that they spend hundreds and thousands of pounds a year on, where they exfoliate and put this lovely cream on. And here, from here above, totally abuse it. And so it needs to have that sort of
For your hair growth.
that's the soul of hair.
So what are the three products that are essential for scalp wellness?
To be honest, it does depend, but there is a great product by Dermabrasion that's salicylic acid. It just eats dead skin, it cleans up your filthy orifices, and there's nothing better than clean filthy orifice. And so, because the hair can grow out of it. So, yeah, that to me is the perfect thing. If you exfoliate the face, you should exfoliate the skin at least once a month.
It's about giving it a clean base and then a nourished base too.
Yeah.
So, it's about starting some oils into it. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Be careful on those.
Yeah, depending on what you get like. There's serums now on the market, you can get some for those different types. You can get some, there's lots of products I think important not to overload your hair. Just give it a bit of TLC like we were saying earlier, take some time to give yourself a scalp facial next week as well as
But don't think by not washing it, you're doing it the wrong way. You're better. If you want, you can wash your hair twice a day. Okay, if you've got a highly coloured wool colour, it's going to come out quickly. But if you are using the right products, you can wash it as often as you want. The products these days are so good, so don't worry about it.
Right, well, thank you very much, everyone.